Hi, welcome back at the YouTube studio here at the Munich Security Conference. I am Victoria Reichelt and I am joined today by Mariam Al Mheiri. She's head of the International Affairs Office of the United Arab Emirates. Ms. Al Mheiri, great that you're here with us today. Thank you for coming.
Victoria, for having me. Thank you.
I guess I don't have to tell you, we're living in quite challenging geopolitical times coming to the conference today or maybe yesterday. Yeah. What is the crisis hotspot that currently concerns you the most?
So, Victoria, we're just coming from COP28 in December. And so, of course, something I was very, very focused on at COP28 was food security. So coming here to the Munich Security Conference, the subject of food security is still very dear to me. I see this as one of the huge pillars of national security. And so I find this a very hotspot topic. And just if I may explain also to some of the viewers today, so I was the former Minister of Climate Change and Environment of the UAE. Now I'm head of the International Affairs Office in the Presidential Court. I'm also the Group CEO of 2.0, a new holding company. And of course, in my former role, I was the food systems lead for COP28. So the subject of food security has been something that's been very dear to my heart, but also the efforts leading to COP28, really to try and make sure we have the political will of countries to understand that every country has to do its part in transforming to more sustainable food systems. So I'm very happy that the Munich Security Conference takes this subject on because it is a threat for national security for all countries. What's exasperating our food systems even more is, of course, conflict and climate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you said it already. Before your current role, you led the Ministry for Climate Change and Environment. And you talking about COP28, of course, like the main topic we're talking about right now, like considering climate change, is the end of fossil fuels. At the same time, you come from a country known for its major oil production. As an Emirati politician, how does this job look differently for you than maybe for other countries?
Yes. First of all, we were very happy coming out of COP28. As Emiratis, we were proud that we hosted COP28. We had over 150 leaders coming to COP28. COP28 had many firsts, and I think it was the most significant COP after the Paris Agreement. We had on day 0 or day 1, the agenda was adopted, which had never happened before. The Loss and Damage Fund was operationalized and funded. And by the way, it was UAE and Germany who started this. So the UAE put down $100 million, Germany put down $100 million, and so the Loss and Damage Fund started to get funding in. This had never happened before. On the energy front, and as you say, I mean, the UAE, if you look at our GDP, more than 72% of our GDP is non-oil based. And that is because we've been on a journey of diversifying our energy sources since more than 30 years. So we're in the space of solar energy, nuclear energy, wind power we've just started, and also hydrogen as well. So with Germany, actually, we have the Emirati-German Energy and Climate Partnership, which I'll talk a little bit more about. But at COP28, the beauty was, so the first day, having these unprecedented moments, then we managed to get over 120 countries to pledge for tripling renewable energy capacity by 2030, doubling energy efficiency. We also managed for the first time to get text on fossil fuels in the actual global stocktake text saying transitioning away from fossil fuels. We managed, Victoria, as well, on the adaptation, on the food, on health, on nature. Lots of declarations were signed, really getting the political will on all these fronts. Youth was front and center at COP28. We had the first youth climate champion, which is now going to be something that's going to be embedded in all COPs moving forward. And our COP28 president, Dr. Sultana Jaber, has now done a tripatriate with the Azerbaijan and with Brazil to ensure that the UAE consensus and all the efforts keep moving in the same kind of pace that it should be to be able to continue all the efforts that has been done at COP28. So these are just some highlights of the success of COP28. And of course, we were proud to host the world. We were proud that many were there. I mean, the food that was served there was 60% plant-based. There was lots, because this was always something that in a lot of the COPs before that, people complained there was not much food there and not much choice, and those who were vegetarians or vegans didn't have much choice either. But we really took the time to ensure that COP28 not only comes out with the achievements that we wanted, but also that you experience what being in a sustainable event means.
Yeah, what I get from that is that you really all about like diversifying the energetic landscape. In December, you said to Bloomberg, fossil fuels have a role to play, a much smaller role to play.
Yes, yes.
On the other side, there are still climate activists who say this is not enough. We have to end all fossil fuels. Can you understand that?
Yeah. So, Victoria, if you look at like our country, UAE, we're already on a net zero pathway. We've put a strategy in place. We've used a lot of the resources that we have to not only invest in the future energy systems of tomorrow, but also to invest in capacity building. So over these last 30 years, while we've been diversifying into all these different energy sources, we understand what it takes to do this transition. Not only do you need the leadership, but you need the resources, you need the money, you need the know-how. Now, there are many countries that are still not on that level yet. And so as they transition, you have to help them be able to transition and use the energy systems of today to build the energy transitions or the energy systems of tomorrow. And so it is very difficult to understand not everyone is at that level yet. But we as a country, we have the leadership, we have the resources, and we have a plan. But many don't. And so it's important that we help them to transition into these pathways. Now, I was very involved in the food systems transformation and getting the political will of many of these countries. For them, it's like, okay, how do we transition when we're hungry all the time? So we have to sometimes really think that this has to be pragmatic, it has to be realistic, and it's not just a switch of a button to be able to go from one energy system to another.
Yeah. What's, like, from your perspective, what's the biggest threat to worldwide food security right now?
Right now, I worry about water. If we don't tackle the issue of water, it is the underlying foundation of food, of energy as well. So that's probably one of the subjects that I worry about most. And I think more needs to be done on water technologies. I think we have enough water. It's the same as food. We have enough food, but it's just not distributed correctly. We have enough water, but it's also just not distributed correctly. And also, if you look at our consumption patterns and our lifestyle, we're not always thinking about it, but we waste a lot of food, we waste a lot of water, we waste a lot of energy. So I think these kind of lifestyles, we need to also look at ourselves and our behavior around some of these foundations.
Talking about distribution worldwide, I've had a lot of interview partners today who said that they can really feel that right now there's like a power shift going on. Like the world we used to know, like the power system is changing into something else that is not quite done yet. How do you feel about that?
When you talk about power, do you mean political power? Yeah. So what we're seeing is we're moving into this multipolar world. Now, the UAE is not a superpower. The UAE is a small country, but we're very forward-thinking. We very much try to push for global peace and for communication and dialogue. We live in a very unstable region. We have a lot of young people in our region, so the UAE tries to be kind of the the beacon of hope and the lighthouse for a lot of the young people. We have very inspirational and forward-thinking leadership. We try to be, in all the conflicts that's happening around the world, we try and do our part in having the kind of communication and dialogue to be able to de-escalate as much as possible, do a lot of humanitarian efforts. I myself am involved very much in the humanitarian efforts for Ukraine, for example. And so having these conversations and being able to understand both sides is really important. And it's something that we have, grown to understand the importance of being a small country in a very unstable neighborhood.
Coming from like this big level of power exchange of like a system that is moving, that is constantly moving, coming to something rather personal. Because when I look outside in the hallways, I mean, I think the conference is diversifying in a way, but still I see a lot of men in suits. Like security politics are still very male dominated. How do you experience having that job in such a male-oriented world?
I'm very lucky, Victoria, that our country actually, when I look at some of the numbers, so for example, in the cabinet, there's 30% women. In the parliament, we're 50% women. So even looking at my team that's here at the Munich Security Conference, actually they're mostly all women. So I'm very lucky in that we have a lot of women empowerment in the UAE, and it comes already from when you look at the educational system and the universities and STEM subjects. Actually, a lot of our women are studying sciences. So when I am in these conversations, yes, I do notice there are a lot of men there, but at the same time, I mean, this is my third Munich Security Conference. I am seeing more and more women coming into this conversation. You actually see a lot more, there's the humanitarian, international development is coming into the conversation as well. So in those posts, you usually see a lot more women there as well. And so I myself, it doesn't really bother me, but it always makes me smile when I see more women coming into this. But I've grown up, I mean, I studied here in Aachen. I did mechanical engineering, so I was one of very few women.
So you're used to it.
So, yeah. So for me, it's not, yes, I do sometimes notice that the number of women are little, but I do see this as an opportunity and hopefully an inspiration for women to not be afraid to do something that looks like it's very male dominant. I actually think having more women in this domain would help, just because I feel we women do, we have more empathy, and I think in this, in the whole context of conflict, I think it's important to go down to the levels of human beings and really understand what matters and have those conversations as well with the people that are being affected, to understand their needs and not presume something for them.
Mrs. Al Mheiri, thank you for joining me today, and thank you for tuning in into YouTube studio at Munich Security Conference.